Okay, I'm going to apologize in advance because I'm going to actually try and do my news show and play 3 tables of Texas Hold'em poker at the same time. Okay, so here we go.
As we can conclude, Javanka, I mean, I understand also that the campaign, which was really kind of above board for a long time, and the two of you were, with different positions, were acting fairly honorably, at least in the debates I've seen, the conversations I've seen taking place. But things have gotten ugly. I understand that some
Yes.
red baiting has taken place, that people are literally attacking your signs and attacking you as a
Right.
person, not physically, but in
Yes.
terms of your character.
Yes, attacking my character, red baiting a black woman living in the United States of America. Our signs are being defaced. They're being tagged with things. One sign I saw someone had, communist voters unite. Don't even understand. That's obviously people who don't understand the difference between communism and socialism.
She's the one who doesn't understand the difference between communism and socialism. Socialism is a movement. Communism is an economic theory. As an economic theory, if you want to translate it into a movement, it would be eventually taking all the profit out of the system, as in people who don't work and they make money anyway, simply through investment. Through ownership, through greed. So what she doesn't understand is that in terms of the difference between communism and socialism is that communists and socialists are exactly the same. They're exactly the same. They're very concerned about poverty. They're very concerned about oppression. They're very concerned about all the same things exactly to the same extent as each other. I mean, they are. They're all exactly the same. Now, if you want to talk about communism, it's just an economic theory because it's never been put in place. But communists and socialists, communists, like I'm a typical communist. I do not believe in radical change. Now, if you're a Marxist, you believe in radical change. You believe in taking over everything. But if you're a communist, you simply believe in something called the command economy. Okay, and the command economy is a system where scientists make the decisions. So instead of having this free market, or what they call the invisible hand of capitalism, you have scientists sitting around trying to figure out, well, how much of this or that should we produce in order to, produce enough that everybody who needs diapers gets diapers, rather than having some rich guy trying to decide, well, this is how many diapers we're going to produce this year because, and this is how much we're going to charge for them because I want to make a lot of money, right? So, just in terms of socialism and communism, these progressives, and all of them do this, try trying to clean up the name socialism, and they continue to demonize the name communism. They continue to accept this idea that, Stalin's starving people in Ukraine or somewhere is the equivalent of communism. No, that's fascism. I'm not saying that the people who did it weren't communists. And to whatever extent you want to, look into each individual thing, because sometimes the stuff that they lay on communism's doorstep, like Mao, okay, they want to say, well, Mao starved his own people. Like Mao didn't like maybe dissident Chinese, and he starved them, to death. We're talking about. Well, he didn't never do that. What he did was he had all these communist countries all around him, like Vietnam, who was fighting the United States or fighting Europe. All these other, maybe not communism yet, but communists yet, but they were fighting to throw off the yoke of imperialism. And he had to make a decision, This obviously isn't working well for my game. I just wasn't paying attention and lost a big hand. Anyway, it's no big deal. It's all for free. So, what he did was he decided he was going to take Chinese rice and share it with the other countries that were far worse off than he was. Far worse than China. And Chinese would have to share what they had with each other left over. This was, this was a humanitarian thing. It wasn't, it was the opposite. So, don't listen to everything you hear
Socialism
about communists. I mean, first of all, if they're really evil, like Stalin was evil to a certain extent, then chances are they weren't acting as communists, but they were acting as fascists. And Marxists and other hardcore communists like that, I wouldn't even really call them communists, but I'm trying to give you a name that you can understand. They most certainly were fascists. And they most certainly were acting as fascists. Possibly in the defense of communism, in the defense of their economic system, that did or did not, to whatever extent, you'd have to look at it scientifically. Look at the history scientifically. Did or did not create a equal system, and for who, right? Did it create an equal system for everybody in the country, or just for all the white people in the country? I mean, communism under Russia certainly did not create equality in the whole of the USSR. If you lived in the mountains of wherever, Kazakhstan, just a fake name, but no, seriously, the stands, Afghanistan, you didn't get to share in the wealth of the Russian communist system. Even though you were part of the USSR, the United Soviet Socialist Republic. So Russia certainly did not have a communist system. If it had, it never would have had the problems it had. It never would have had to go to war in Afghanistan. Because the people were starving. and they rebelled against the Russians, and all throughout former USSR, right? They had those problems. Well, they had those problems because they weren't truly communist. So, you know, I mean, the countries that were not being treated equally and weren't being spread the communism of Russia made Russia pay for that in blood and in treasure. And that costs the Russian economy, just like our wars cost us. I mean, you don't think that we could be a far better country? I mean, first of all, we would uh, at least share a little bit of the wealth with everybody. But if we weren't fighting all these wars, these trillion upon trillions of dollar wars, you don't think our economy would, even a capitalist economy, would be better? So, you know, all these people now who dare to call themselves socialists, they continue to demonize the name communism. And, you know, communism and being a communist and supporting the idea of a command economy, that's just not, you know, you're just supporting an idea. You're not even supporting a movement. You know, you're not supporting a socialist movement or a communist movement. You're just simply saying that you support. You know, on top of supporting the command economy, I will say that communists, I believe that their main belief is to help people who they see suffering. So they see in the 20s, they see people like Carnegie and Mellon and all these big fat cats, right? Hiring cavalry to run over picket lines and killing people. And they see these people living in tents and stuff in the United States. I mean, I talk about how the United States has improved over the years, and it has. Because back then, there were tent cities. I mean, now there's car cities. So people who work in big Amazon plants, I think somewhere out west I heard about, are living in these like mobile home cities, and they take their cars and they take their SUVs and whatever, and they turn them into dwellings, and they live in these car parks. These are just things I've heard about, but I'm sure they're true. So, I mean, like a car park is better than a tent city, right? And you can see how desperate these people are when, you know, assholes tells them that he's going to raise their wages to $15 an hour, and you could hear the frantic emotion when they were told that. And when you hear it, you know, I mean, you can just feel how bad off these people must be. That $15 an hour, which isn't enough to even survive in this economy. But, of course, it's a massive improvement for people who are making $7 an hour. So, and I know that people do make minimum wage, because even here in Lexington, they were caught hiring illegals and paying them under minimum wage. So what's to stop them from paying minimum wage? So, what can I say? Um, and yeah, you're gonna see I'm pretty good at this game and when I'm paying attention. But I got how many tables going? 3. I had 4, but I lost a table and I lost a bunch of chips. I mean, here I'm about to lose a table. So that's just the way it goes. Especially when you're not paying much attention, you tend to lose a lot of chips. So things have gotten better, okay? Things have improved. I'm not going to say that they haven't. A lot of people have. A lot of people believe that things have gotten worse and that things are getting worse now. I have to disagree with that. I think things have gotten better. I think people are under a lot less pressure than they were, say, back in the 30s. And certainly certain segments have. I mean, now people live in ghettos instead of, you know, houses along the bayou with no running water and no sanitation whatsoever. Not that you can't live with that. As a matter of fact, the off-grid music movement is huge, right? So, you know, my message to people like this, you know, I support them 100%. But don't demonize communism in order to save your own ass. It really reminds me of, you know, people who are the first ones to get up and run away when trouble comes. Even though they were up front, you know, they were up front when everything was, when the wind was at their back and when things were safe and comfortable. But then, you know, when somebody calls you a communist, instead of saying like, okay, you know, in some ways I'm a communist, you know, I'm a lot alike, and I support communists. I mean, say that, because you do. I mean, you people love people like me, and I'm a communist, right? But as soon as, I mean, why wouldn't you love me? I don't believe in the overthrow of the American government. I'm not a militant. If anything, a lot of socialists are far more militant than me. And I'm a communist. And I'm typical of probably 90% of the communists. It's for sure in America, excuse me. I'm typical of 90% of the communists. And the rest are, I mean, in every movement you're going to have your radical militants, right? At least in our movement, the communist movement, we're pacific, and we do everything we can to squash that. And current events reflect that. Who are the people who are going out and shooting people in mass shootings and stuff like that? They're right-wing people. The odd moderate. But we keep our nut jobs under control. I mean, I know I personally really come down on, and I see it all the time, and I probably get a lot of shit because I don't like turn them over to the FBI or something. But you know, that's up to the FBI and the CIA and stuff, not me. It's not my job to go around every time I hear somebody say something. And, you know, I mean, if I heard somebody say, oh, well, I'm building a bomb and I'm going to set it off, you know, then I would. But just people going, oh, well, we should kill all the rich people. Yeah, that's probably borderline illegal to say we should. I've never heard anybody say, well, I'm going to. But, you know, you hear people express their anger. And, you know, I'm against being too concerned about those people. First of all, I don't hear about them actually doing anything in, you know, pursuit of their movement and their anger. So why should I be so concerned about people talking about it? I mean, yeah, sure, you get a nut job every once in a while, but they're nut jobs anyway. They could be communists or fascists or purple with pink polka dots. And they would go out and do something to people. You know, actually hurt people. I can't worry about those people. They're just, you know, our government should be doing something about them. They should be monitoring these people and making sure that they're not really going to go out and kill people. And even then, they're not going to catch a lot of them. You know, there are ways, rational ways of dealing with them. And really, that hysteria feeds into this, what she's talking about.
Just says that there is enough wealth to share. That's all. That's what that means. And it's unfortunate that any working class person,
which is just as radical as communism. And we have to, you know, if we don't beat this propagandization, this demonization of the word communist, as a matter of fact, anything that demonizes, that calls people like me, who all we want to do in a gradual way is end poverty, right? So anything that demonizes us, whether it feeds off of this 1950s or even earlier propagandization, demonizing communists, or anybody else who cares about, I mean, they do demonize all of us. You know, call us do-gooders and tree huggers and all this kind of stuff. So we've got to stick together. You know, you guys need to support communists, and you need to help see the word socialist and socialism, being called a socialist, was never nothing like communist or communism. It was never demonized the way communists and communism, the media would push stuff like the Rosenbergs and make it sound like there were just millions of Americans, millions of Rosenbergs. You know, these were the people who were spying for the Russians. Nothing could be further from the truth. I mean, first of all, I don't even know for sure that the Rosenbergs were, or any of these people were as guilty as they claim they were. But if they were an anomaly. If you want to find out what communists are really like in America, you can watch, I have a playlist. See, that was just a huge mistake. But it's gonna turn out to be a winner. Oh, yes. Did I win? Yeah, I did. That was lucky. I didn't mean to press the button, and I did, and I ended up with a winner. Just sheer luck. Okay, so anyway, so if you want to know what communists are really like, I mean, this is just the way, and I hate to say this because it sounds racist, but I've noticed that black people are highly uneducated when it comes to propaganda in the United States. I mean, her attitude, and even Mark Steiner's attitude here, who, you know, he knows better, are to think of American communists as being very bad people, and communism being a very bad, well, they're not.
Would not subscribe to a model that benefits all of us. They're attacking my character. There's whisper campaigns. I had a gentleman, a black gentleman the other day approach me saying he heard that I hate black men. And I know that it's a whisper campaign based on the fact that I'm an out lesbian on the Richmond City Council, but to take it to that level that I hate black men is really disheartening. But it's not the first time that this has happened.
Okay, so she's getting a little bit away from the communism thing, but it's all related. It's simply politics. I mean, Richard Nixon won his first campaign by red baiting, by calling his opponent a communist, and